In a new series. It's from Psalm 107, page 412 in the Bible in the pew, if you'd like to follow along, page 412. Starts off well, and then it takes an unusual twist, and then it ends well, so that's all right. Psalm 107, beginning in verse 1. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of his enemy. Oh, and when I say redeemed of the Lord say so, you're supposed to all go amen. Okay, let's try that again. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so.
Amen.
There you go. Whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy and gathered out of the lands from the east and from the west, north and the south. They wandered in the wilderness in a desolate way. They found no city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their soul fainted in them. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. And he led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city for a dwelling place. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness, for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he satisfies the longing soul, and fills the hungry soul with goodness. Those who sat in darkness and in the shadow of death, bound in affliction and irons, because they rebelled against the words of the Lord and despised the counsel of the Most High. Therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distresses. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and broke their chains in pieces. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness, for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he has broken the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron in two. Fools, because of their transgression and because of their iniquities, were afflicted. Their soul abhorred all manner of food, and they drew near to the gates of death. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distresses. He sent his word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness, and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and declare his works with rejoicing. Those who go down to the sea in ships, who do business on great waters, they see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts up the waves of the sea. They mount up to the heavens, they go down again to the depths. Their soul melts because of trouble. They reel to and fro, and stagger like a broken man, and are at their wits' end. Then they cry out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brings them out of their distresses. He calms the storm so that its waves are still. Then they are glad because they are quiet. So he guides them to their desired haven. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. And then the last verse. Whoever is wise will observe these things, and they will understand the loving kindness of the Lord. Let's pray. Father, this morning, as we come to your word, you know where we each one are. You know the burdens and the joys. You know the struggles and the blessings. And we ask you to speak to our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Did you notice the title of the new series in the italics beside the word message? Glory and Tribulations, which is taken from Romans chapter 5, where Paul said, we have fellowship with God through faith and are blessed by that, and not only that, we glory in tribulations. That verse has always bothered me. I have not ever really been a person to glory in tribulation. I have not ever really been a person who, going through a tough time, and say, oh, praise the Lord. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this new series. Because I need to figure this out. And you're just along for the ride. I hope it helps you. The other reason we're doing this is men's Bible study. As we were working through Timothy and Thessalonians, and it seemed like every other paragraph, Paul said, we're moving forward through tribulation. And don't be surprised if you have tribulation. Tribulation, tribulation. What the heck is the deal with tribulation? So, for the next few weeks, we're going to look at tribulation. It got Vicky worried because she said, you know, usually when you're preaching something, we have to practice it. So does that mean we got tribulations coming? I don't believe that's necessarily the case. But since Paul talked about it so much, since Jesus talked about it, and since we do, whether it's because of the series or not, have to deal with tribulation, we need to begin to understand what God's trying to do with us in tribulation. And the obvious place to start is Psalm 107, which gives an amazing introduction and summary of what God's trying to do through tribulation. First of all, we need to begin to think what God's trying to do to start with. What is He trying to do in our lives? What's He up to? What can we look forward to? What can we expect? Popular opinion says God is out to make us rich. Anybody here experience rich? I gave up on my second $1 million. I don't ever expect to be rich. Although I am incredibly blessed. But the thing that we see in the Bible is God is not out to make us rich. The other thing that's popular these days is God is out to make us healthy. And then God is out to make us happy. Is it any wonder that Christians are disappointed? Because that isn't what happens. What happens is usually tribulation. And Jesus says, don't be surprised about that. He said, in one of the famous things that He said near the end of His life, in the world you shall have tribulation. But be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And you see, we like the second part, we don't like the first part. And you know, have you ever seen one of these promise calendars, you know, where every day there's a different promise from God? I have never seen a promise calendar that had that verse in it. I have never seen a promise calendar that said, in the world you shall have tribulation. What a wonderful promise. But Jesus said that. Because He doesn't want us to be surprised when things are tough. So what is God up to? What's He trying to do in our lives? Very simple. God is working on our soul. He's working on who we are, and He's ever drawing us to Himself. And you know why He's trying to draw us to Himself? Because that's where life is. That's where joy is. That's where peace is. That's where forgiveness is. All the things that we really need, that's what He's working on. Drawing us to Himself that we might find them. Now, how does He do it? Paul gives us the answer in Glory and Tribulation. Because in Romans chapter 5, when he says those words, he says we also glory in tribulation because it produces good things in our lives. Another reason that I'm doing this series is because of the event we had last night, which featured a young Marine who always said, if it's not raining, we're not training. Jesse went into the Marines to become a better man. And he knew it was going to be tough. And we asked him, we have a kind of a stereotypical view of boot camp that the drill instructor is yelling at him all the time. So we said, Jesse, does the drill instructor yell at you all the time? He says, not if you know what's right. And he set out to do what was right. And when he came home to visit us after boot camp, it was raining one day, and he says, I'm going for a run. Because if it's not raining, we're not training. And so he sets out to run around our little square. Kingdom Road, Barton Road, Creek Road, 5 miles.